Okay, now we will continue with the aggregation functions. Okay, so these are the different types of categories that are available, and each category have a lot of DAX functions that are available. Now we will proceed with understand the aggregation functions, how we can use the aggregate functions, and then we'll proceed with the rounding functions, other stuff. Okay. First, we'll start with the count functions in DAX. What is count function? One second, let me just. So count function. See, it is the count function is also one of the aggregation functions. Okay, it is one of the most basic, but also an important functions are the aggregation functions. The count is one of the aggregation functions. So what are the other aggregation functions that are available? Sum function, minimum, min function, max function, the average function, and count function. So the distinct function, these are the functions are called your aggregation function. First of all, what is aggregation? In simple terms, summarization. Let's say I have a column by the name of sales. I just write it here. I have a column by the name of sales. Okay, here in this column, I have 10,000, 10,000, 585, and then let's say 215. These are the values are there. If you wanted to do the total, if you want to know the total sales, you use the sum function. Okay. All we need is the sum of sales, not the individual line of individual transactions. We don't need it. We want to need this. We want to know the sum of sales. This is your aggregation function. This is called aggregation or summarization. And sometimes what we'll know, I need the average. I don't need the sum. Okay. In addition to sum, I need to see the average sales. In addition to that, I need to see the minimum sales, maximum sales, standard deviation. That is also statistics, right? Standard deviation of the sales. I want to see. So these functions are sum, average, min, max. These are called your aggregation function. Just give me a second. I have some visitor. So already will continue. Like I mentioned here, the sum function, average function, min, max function. These are your aggregation function. In addition to that, count function is also one of the aggregation functions. So in the case of Power BI DAX, right, in the aspect of Power BI tool, we have something called DAX, right? In DAX, there are gamut of count functions that are available. The family of count functions are available. So you might have used the count function in the SQL query. So you might have used count function, distinct function, count of star. Okay, but when it comes to Power BI, especially in the case of DAX, there are many count functions are available. Okay, as part of count. So that's why I call this a count family of functions. So in the count, we can see a lot of different types of count functions are available. Count function, count a function, count ax, and so on. We will just take a look at each and every function, and we will try to understand what is the difference between these functions, how each function can be helpful. Okay. So what I did here, I just grouped these so many 3, 6, 7 count functions. Of these 7 functions, how many of the count functions fall under excluding blanks? How many of the count functions falls under including blanks? All right. How many of the count function falls under excluding blanks? How many of the count function falls under including blanks? So what do you mean by excluding blanks? If you use these set of count functions, it will exclude the blanks. Supposing you have let's take the same example, the sales column. In the sales column, you have 1,000 for record 1 or day 1, and day 2, nothing is there, blank. Okay, and day 3, you have something like 2,000. Okay, if you use a count of sales, what will happen is the count will give you the number of values. It will not give the sum of the sales. It gives the number of values. 1, 2 values are there. It will ignore the blank value. Not only the count function, the count a function, count x function, count x function. when you use this, with the help of the count, we can find out the number of values in a column, in any given column. But these count functions will ignore the blank values. Okay, ignore the blank values. In this case, what will happen is it will give you the count of sales. It will give you the 2. Okay. And for example, you have the customer ID column. So here your customer ID is 1001 and something blank is there 1002, 1003. If you use count of customer ID, you just wanted to make sure that how many customers are there. Count function, use it on this column. In that case, what will happen is 3 customers are there. Though you have blank value, it will say only the count function ignores the blank values. And not only the count function, these 3 count functions also ignores the blank values. Okay, then if all these 4 count function ignores the blank, then why we need 4 different functions? Yes, I will explain now. The count function works with numbers, dates, and strings. Numbers, dates, and string data type columns. Numbers, date, string data type column. Okay, and this count function does not count blank cells and Boolean values. Boolean value also. What do you mean by Boolean values? Not only it ignores the blank value. Supposing you have something like true or false, okay, it ignores this one also. It will not work. Okay, it does not count the blank cells and the Boolean values. Okay, and the next one is the count EA function. See, this one, the count function works only with these 3 data type, whereas the count EA function, you just remember this A, all data type. It works with all the data type. The count EA function works with all the data types, including the Boolean data types, numbers, dates, and string, and your Boolean values. It works with the count all data types. Whereas in the case of count, it will work all the data types except the Boolean data type. And the next one is, and also it ignores the blank values. Like count function ignores the blank values, but it works with all the data types, including Boolean. Whereas the count function, count X function, this is also somewhat similar to count function. It ignores the blank value, and also it will not work with the Boolean values. Okay, then what is the difference between these two? There is a difference. What is the difference? X. You remember that in DAX, any function that ends with X, that is called your iterator function, iterating or iterator. Okay, or iterating function. The count X function, iterating function, count AX is also an iterating function. So what do you mean by iterating function? This function will iterate each and every row in your given data set to evaluate an expression. The X is nothing but expression. But in this case, count of customer ID. If I say count of customer ID, it gives me the total number of values in this column. Oh my God. Thank God now you told. Others did not even tell. Oh my God. Okay. Now you can see it, right? Extremely sorry. Okay. Now I shared the screen. Yeah, right. So, okay. So these are the count functions. Okay. This is what I was talking, the aggregation function, the sum all. Anyhow, no problem. I have some other video. I'll share it as an exception. The count X function is also somewhat similar to your count function. Okay. But the difference is you can use an expression here. And other differences, it will iterate each and every row in your data set. Okay, the count X function. Whereas the count function, it will not iterate each and every row. It will work on a single column. For example, count of customer ID, if I use it, you are working on one, it will work only on this entire column. Okay, it does the aggregation on a single column, the count function. Whereas the count X function will work with, so expression. Supposing you wanted to see something like expression, quantity is greater than 10. we wanted to find out the total number of customers for those we sold more than 10 units. Okay, so in that kind of situation, this is your expression. You can use an expression or filter criterion as part of your count-x function. Right, like count, that is the difference between count and count-x. In the case of count-x, you can use an expression. Each and every row, it goes and checks whether the quantity is greater than 10 or not. Okay, so that is what the difference between count and count-x. And count A works with all the data type, number, date, string, and boolean, whereas the count function works with all the data except boolean data type. Next one is count AX. Like I said, count A, this A tells us it works with, this count function works with all the data types. The count A is also the same as this count A, it works with all the data types. Okay. And with this, you can use the expression. So in the count X, iterates row by row. Even this function is also an iterates row by row because these two functions ends with X. It is called iterator function or iterating function. Each and every row it iterates, but the count X will not work with Boolean, whereas this one will work with Boolean data type. That is what you need to remember it. That's all. That is the difference. Just give me a second. Yeah, date, strings, and Boolean values also it works. And count X function does not count blank values, same as your count A. But in the count AX function, we can do filters. We can apply the filter. We can filter the data. Like I said, any quantity is greater than 0 or the region equal to north, something like that. You can do a filter, and then for that region region not equal to north, which means excluding north, rest of the regions, how many number of customers are there. If you want to see it, you can use. So as part of context, you can use you can evaluate an expression row by row. Okay, because it's all iterating function. The function that ends with X, it's all iterating function row by row. It evaluates your expression. Next one is the distinct count. It counts distinct values in a column, including blanks. Okay. So if you wanted to see the distinct count in this column, it takes into account of the blank values also. So 1001, 102, 1003, and the blank value. Supposing you have duplicate value here, it will ignore it. 1003, it will ignore it. Okay. Distinct count values in a column including blanks. Count blanks. It gives us point blank how many number of blank values are. In this case, we have only one blank value is there. And count rows is a superb function. With this, we can find out the total number of records in a table. Got it? So overall, we have 7 count functions are available as of 28 February 2023. Okay, maybe in future they may introduce additional count functions. As of today, only 7 count functions are there. These count functions, it will ignore the blank values, but these functions will take into account of the blank values also. But here, as I said, count A will work with all the functions, all the data types, and count function works with all the data types except Boolean. Count X and count X. Count X, like count function, it will not work with Boolean, but the difference is you can include an expression. Okay, but it will not work with Boolean, but it will work with Boolean, and also you can evaluate an expression with this. Okay, all right. So next one is we will jump into the Power BI desktop enough theory part. Now let us see how this function works. Each and every one of the functions, how it works. Just give me a second. I'm getting, because of the power failure, many people are disturbing. 1 second here. Now we will explore what is the difference between what each function is all about, the count function, and we will compare and contrast the difference between these count functions. I just go here and look here. In this case, we have a data set called sales by customer. This is the data set. I have it. I just took this small data set to understand this funda or the function, count function, how it works. This data set is enough. Okay. Here I have used the string called data type. The customer names column is a string data type. Units sold is the whole number, and these two are numeric data type. And active, the column active is your Boolean data type. Okay, and this is just a copy of this function. What I did here, I use the if condition. If this customer's name column have blank value in it, replace it with blank. Okay, and otherwise you simply put this value here. So in this case, okay, we don't have any blank value here. Let it be there. You can probably ignore this one at this one. I think I filled with some data here, no problem. But you have string data type, number data type, and then Boolean data type. But here what we will do is, I just go here in the interest of time. Already I have created everything. So what I did, I just created table visual. If I wanted to see the data that belongs to sales by customer, each and every time I need to go and click on this icon here. So if I click on this, it will take me to the data view and select sales by customer. And I need to see how many columns are 5 columns. Instead of coming in each and every time coming to this data view, I want to see it here. It's a look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I did, I just used this table visual. For example, look here, this is my table visual. In this table visual, what are the columns that are available? Simply, I drop it here. Forget about these things. The calculator kind of icons are your this thing, the measures that is nowhere related to the column name. And the next one is the sales column, and the other one is the units sold. And the next one is the active. And yeah, these are the 4 columns. And we have something else called the customer name is a calculated column. Yes, that is also, we can use it here. You got it? This is how I created this table. Okay, this is how I created, so that we can check, cross verify this data set here itself along with the DAX functions. So here what I did, I just selected this visual. This is called card visual. You click on it once, the card visual will get dropped here. The moment when you click on it here, it will get dropped on your report canvas. This is what your report canvas. Here what we will do is, I just go and select one of the count function. This is my count function. The moment you select this visual, the corresponding measures or the formula that you used it in this visual will get highlighted on the right side. So, okay, this one belongs to this table. In this table, I have used the formula in this measure. Okay, measure is something like a formula. You just think that way, okay, at this moment. So if I click on this, if you click on it once gently, it will open the formula editor here. Here you can see that what formula that I have used it in here. The count of sales by customer sales. Or else what I do is better, I will go and create it everything from the scratch. The simple thing is, yes, I will, so that you will get to know how it happened. So I just create the table here. And here what I do is, so this is my customer table. Here I just put the customer name here. What is the customer name here? Customer's name. And then the next one is the unit sold and sales column. And then we have what else? We have the active thing here, the Boolean data type. And next one is the customers column here. This is a calculated column. At this one, we'll ignore it. Ignore about this total and all. Okay. And what I will do is I just go here and then I will say don't summarize. Here anyhow it will not do anything. And the customer unit sold also don't summarize. I will explain all the things, don't worry. Okay. At this moment, you just look at this data set alone. Okay. Don't worry about the other things. So, all right, these are the data set I have. Now, I just click on this card visual. Can you see it here? This is what the card visual. Okay. I clicked on this once, it got dropped here. It got dropped here. So what is the next step now? So now what I do is I'm going to write some formula. We want to, what formula? We wanted to count. Okay, here what I did, count of sales. Let us use the count function on the sales column, because the count function can work on all the data types except the Boolean. So it will not work on this one. Okay. So now what I do is I need to create a measure. So where shall I create it? Click on the modeling ribbon. Here you will find new measure. You have new table, new column. Quick measure is also a new measure. Click on the new measure once. It will take some time to open the formula bar. Yes, here what I do is perform count on sales column. Since it is a measure, I just use the naming standard like M so that we can easily identify, oh, this is a measure. Here what I do is I simply type the count function. Yes, the count function is ready. The column name, we need to specify the column name, which column sales by customer. In this table, we have a column called sales. What it does is the count function. It goes and checks how many number of values are there in this sales column. In case of any blank value, it simply ignore that. Okay, I just press enter. Okay, it is already there. This name, we will use some other name, count sales 1. And I just press enter here. All right. Now my measure got created. No error, no syntax error. Fine, everything is good. What did I do? I use the count function inside the condition very carefully. Inside this, I mentioned this column name. You cannot just specify the column name. You need to use the table name also. This is my table name. Inside this, I have sales column. I'll just show you one more time. You don't have to manually type everything. Just type randomly the column name, sales column. And here you will see the drop down list. If you scroll down here, you will see something like sales by customer. We'll use sales by customer. The sales by customer sales column, I wanted to use it. Select it. That's it. And make sure that you are using the closed parenthesis. The count is a function. The count, any function, use it, followed by the function name. You need to use the open parenthesis and closed parenthesis. Okay, for example, if I don't specify it, and if I press enter, it will throw an error. For example, if I click on it here, once you finish your formula here, you can click on the tick mark so that it will evaluate the measure is correct or not. The formula, whatever you create is correct or not, it will check. Any of it is not showing up, but let me just put this one and press enter. It got created. The measure got created because we did not get any error. So now look here on the right side. Look here on the right side, the measure which we created it. You can locate it here. Okay. What I will do is I will just drag this and drop it on this one. 6. So with this, what you can understand, in the sales column, we use the count function. In total, how many number of records are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 records are there. Out of the 9 records, how many blank values are there? 1, 2, 3. Excluding the blank value, Out of the 9 records, 3 blank values are there in this column. 9 minus 3, 6. Is it correct? Renuka and others. How about Sai Sudha? Are you able to follow me? We did the count on this column. The count function works with the number type. Yes, it is working, no error. But it ignores the blank values. How many number of records are there in total in this table? 9 records are there. Of the 9 records, 3 records of your sales column have blank values. It excludes the blank value and it tells 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 values are there in the sales column. That is how it tells us. That is what it tells us. Very simple, isn't it? The count function is also an aggregation function. It gives us the total number of values in a column. If you wanted to count it, you can use the count function. And then the next one is what is the next function? Next one is the count A function. What I will do is I'll just copy this, Control C, Control V. I just want to reuse this one because again, I don't want to, drag and drop it. Here, what I do is I just select this measure, Control A, Control C. Now, what I will do is I'm going to create another measure, modeling, click on the new measure. In the interest of time, I just copied this measures formula here also. Because I don't want to use the same measure. I want to create a new measure. Here, what I do is count A function, count A. This time, what I do is sales by customer. As I told you, the count AX function works with all the data type. Here, the active is a Boolean data type. True or false is called your Boolean values. Let us see if this, this is a count A function. Okay, count A function. Let us see if this count A function works on the Boolean data type. Like I said, the count function works with all the data type except the Boolean data type, but count A works with all the data types. I just press enter and see what happens. Great, it got created. No error, nothing. Here what I do is I just use the recently created count A. So now if you see here, 5 values are there. In which column? 1 second, let me just select count A sales 19, count A on the active column. Okay, active column. So this column is active, it has Boolean values, true or false only is there. We want to check whether the count A works on the Boolean type. Yes, it is working fine. And how many number of records are there? 9 records. And how many blank values? 1, 2, 3, 4 blank values are there. 9 minus 4, 5. Non-blank values. It gives me non-blank values are 5 in this column. Non-blank values in this column are 6. You got it? So now we understood the count A works with all the data type. If you want, you can check it with the string data type. So we will try that one also. But the count function also works with string data type and number data type and string number and date column also. Here we don't have date data type. Let it be there. Okay, it works there. Count A works with Boolean also, whereas the count function will not work with Boolean. I'll just show you the same thing. Okay, what I will do, sorry, I will just copy this function, copy this visual, the chord visual. Since I, copied this one, and if I select this one gets highlighted. What measure is used in this one? The same measure here also is there. We need to, replace this one. On the right side, if you see here, what measure that we use for this visual got highlighted here, right? When you click on this, and what it is count function active M. So here I'm going to use count function. Does count function work with Boolean? No. That we are going to test it. I just press enter. Look here, it is throwing an error. The count function does not work with. Okay, sorry, here also it got changed. Okay, here I have overwritten it here, right? So okay, it should be like count A. This count A is gone. Okay, okay. So select modeling. We need to create another measure. Count A active. Count A active. This is the measure. I should use it here. Here I just remove this. Without fail, you try this out. Okay. Certain things you cannot learn over the night. You agree with me or not, right? So count active measure. No, not this one. County. County active measure here. County active. The count active measure. So in this case, count active. So here, count function, I used it to find out the total number of values in active. It is not working. Then what I said was correct. But here, the count a function, it works with all the data type, including the Boolean data type. Good. Up to this, we are clear. So one, two functions, you are clear with it. Next one is the count x function. I just go back here and we will see any count x function that I used. Yes, the count x measure here, I used it. The moment I selected this one on the right side, if you scroll down, you can see that the measure that I used it for this visual got highlighted here. And select and see what is there. Simply, I've used. In the case of count x, you can notice one difference here. It is an iterator function because this function ends with x. You take any iterator function in DAX, the first argument is supposed to be your table name. See, in the case of count, we simply use the table name, column name. Whereas in the count x, first argument is supposed to be a table name, comma, the column name. Or else what you can do is you can use some kind of expression here. Some expression like, okay, let me do one thing, count ex filter measure. So here I just go here. I'll be clicking on this card visual. Now we are going to learn count x function. For this, what I will do is, I just go to the modeling ribbon, click on the new measure. Here, what I do is, I copy paste this one. Here, not count x, I'm going to use. Count x is the another function which falls under the count family. Here we have another function inside the like I said, the first argument is supposed to be a table name. In the case of count x, instead of using the table name, I'm using a filter function. The filter function returns a table. Remember this. You might be asking this question. You said any iterating function that ends with, see, any function that ends with x is iterating function, number one. Number two is the iterator function takes the first argument as a table, but in this case, you did not specify the table name. So what we did, we have used a filter function. This filter function, what it does is, behind the scene, it creates a table. Hence, what we did was correct. Instead of using the table name itself, I've used the filter function, this filter function, but the advantage of filter function is it creates the table behind the scene, and at the same time, you can specify some filtering criteria. Sales by customer, active, true. That is what I mentioned it here. Okay. Okay, so in this case, what happened? It will create a table, but that table will have only the active customers, true. It will exclude the false and blank values. And then it gives me the count of customer. See, now what I did, I filtered this table, only the active customers, true, 1, 2, 3, 4 active customers. And then what it is, you perform a count on customers name. So here, 1, 2, 3, and obviously it has to give 4, right? Let us see what happens. Count text filter measure. I created it. Let us see if this works fine without giving any error. Yes, no error, nothing. And fine. Okay. Now all I have to do is I need to drop this measure. So I created the measure, and you need to go, and the other way of checking count DX filter measure. You can search it and then get it, because in the real time, you'll be creating so many measures. You cannot keep scroll down and check it. You search it here. Okay, count X is the function recently created. Search it. Look here, it got displayed here. Count as it gives me 4. So whatever we did was correct. Look here. So how many active customers are true, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what is the corresponding count on the customer name? 1, 2, 2, and 3. Sorry, not this one. Sorry, not this one. And this one. So 1, 2, 3, and yeah, this is also true, right? Yeah, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. It gives us 4. So count X, now you understood how to use the count X function. Okay, this is how we can use the count. Using the kinds of context, we are able to use the filter function, right? We can use the filter function. With that, we are able to filter it. Without the filter function, you cannot do it. Okay. So what is the difference between count and context? Count and context is seen in two aspects. These two ignore the blank values, and these two will not work with Boolean data type like active column. It's because it's a Boolean data type. But apart from this, there is a dissimilarity in one aspect. What is that? You can use the expression, like I've used the filter function, right? So I want to filter the data. Inside the context, you can use this one, because the first argument takes the table, but we did not specify the table name explicitly. Instead, we use a filter function. Filter function in turn returns a table. It creates a virtual table behind the scene based on this condition. So in this case, instead of 9 records, only 4 records which are active in terms of true. 4 records will be there in the virtual table. In that table, it performs the count on the customer name column. So it gives me 4. Hope you understood. Okay. And the next one is the count AX also. Yeah, X. Count AX. Next one is the count AX. Count AX also same, but the only difference is, let me just do one thing. I just copy this. And I think already I have the count AX function. Count AX function. For the previous batch, no, not this one. Count AX. Let me just remove this. Sorry, count AX. Okay, in this one, the filter, the same thing, but here I have used the active equal to, but instead of this here, you can use the active. We can perform count on the Boolean column using AX function. A works with all the data type. So active is the Boolean data type. And then what I did in the filter function, I've used this condition, active equal to true. And I just go and say, yeah, count X filter. I just modified this. This is the one I'm going to drop it here, so that we can compare the difference between these two. And what I'll do is I will just count AX filter. This is the one. I'll just put it here. Count AX filter, I'll put it here. 4. And even in this case, if you see what happened, it filtered only the records that have true. And if you see this table, the virtual table, it will have only 4 records. Why? We mentioned the condition, hey, select only active customers equal to true, or customers those are active. Active in the sense true. So how many trues are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Behind the scene, only 4 records will be there in this table. Okay, the virtual table. Okay, On top of that table, you are performing the count on the active column. So 4. But now what is the difference between these two? See, we have used the same thing, right? We have used the same thing, but the only thing is column name, I changed it here. Perform a count on Boolean column active. Okay, 4. But can I use active column here? You cannot use, because active is Boolean data type. Count X, like count function, it will not work with the Boolean data type. It will throw an error. If you want, you can test it. How will you test it? You select this measure. And what measure that you use, how will you find out? Look here, I just click cross here. And then I selected them. On the right side, which one got highlighted? This is the one got highlighted. In this table, this one got highlighted. Hence, this is the measure that I use it for this visual. The other way of finding out, which measure or which column that I used it for this visual, you can see it here in the field section. Count text filter. This is another way of checking it. So there are two ways, which formula or which measure that I use it for this visual, the chord visual. One is, if you look at the right side, the column or the measure, which will get, the one which get highlighted, right? That is the one used it here. The other way of checking it, you need to see the fields here. Oh, this is the count AX filter measure that you used it. Okay, good. Now what we do is we go and check this one, context filter. Okay, here I have used the customer column. Now if I change it to active, what will happen? It has to throw an error because the context function will not work with the Boolean data. Look here, it create an error here. If you click on it, you'll find calculation measure says the function cannot work with values of type Boolean. Then what I said was correct. Hence, what I do is I don't want to use this one here. I'm going to use the customer column. It will work with context, work with string data type. Fine. So now you understood the difference between, very simple and easy to understand, isn't it? And the next one is we explored count a function, count ax, and count x and count ax function. The next one is the distinct count. What is distinct count? Distinct count gives you the values in a column. For example, here I just say distinct or okay, what we will do is we'll go and check it here, what function that I used it. Count A and count EX, all the things are fine, and blank values and distinct is not available. Okay, count distinct values. Okay, what we will do is we will create another measure wherein we will see how we can use the count distinct function. So for this, what I will do is I will click on the chord visual like how I did it for other thing. Initially it is blank. I need to populate this visual with some data. For this, you can drag and drop some column here, some numerical data type. But what I do is I'm going to use a measure formula. Now we need to see how the count distinct function works. Okay, what I will do is I'm going to modeling tab and ribbon, and then here I'm going to click on the new measure. I'm going to create the new one. Sorry, this is count distinct. This is a full name, right? So distinct count. Okay, distinct count. Column name. So here what I do is customer column. I'll be using customer column. You just type the column name, customer, and here we don't have to type the table name and all. Look here, the column is available, and you just select this one. and press enter. Your measure will be ready. Okay, no error. It is working fine. Count distinct. Look here, count distinct measure. Now I created it. I want to use it, the measure. But the moment you create the measure, you cannot see the output. If you want to see the output of the distinct count, you need to drop this measure in a visual. 7. Customer column, I have used the count distinct. So why it is showing 7? Look here. So 22 and Baron 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Since Baron repeats more than one time, it takes into account of only one thing. It's something like, just because Baron visited my shop 3 times, just because his name is appearing 3 times, that doesn't mean 3 different Barons. Right? All these guys are same only. So the distinct function, the count distinct, it takes into account of the duplicated values also, but it will not count the duplicated values. Okay, so 22 unique values. You just think about unique values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Baron appears, though it appears multiple times, it takes into account of only one time. So 7. Count distinct measure. Now you can use the count distinct measure on the sales column also and see if this count distinct count takes into account of the blank values also. For that, what I will do is I'll just copy paste this one. Control C, Control V. Count distinct is there here. 1 second. Count distinct. Here I need to select this one. And here go to modeling tab and click on the new measure. Same thing, count distinct measure 2. This time I'm going to use another column called sales column. Let us use sales column. Press enter. Look here, count distinct. Right, so count distinct. Okay, measure 2. I need to use the count distinct measure 2. Okay, here I just remove this. I use this measure. Count distinct measure 2. So even in this case, it display only the 7 values. Let me just check. Count distinct, it gives me the distinct count. Okay, and then distinct count on the sales column, measure 2. So here what happened? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blank values. It takes into account of the blank values. Then you might be asking this question: 3 blank values are there. Then why it is counting only 7? See, look here. How many unique values are there? Does 8411 repeated? No, it is not repeating more than once. Is this repeating more than once? No. 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 Unique values. So how many arrows? 6. 6 values are not repeating. Fine. But whereas the blank value is repeating 3 times, though it repeats more than one time, the blank values like Baron, it counts only one time, the duplicated values. So 6 plus 1, 7. It is doing correct job, perfect job. Distinct count takes into account of the blank values also. Since the blank value appears multiple times, it counts as a duplicate value. Instead of taking all the 3 blank values into account, it takes only one value, a unique value. Okay, in simple term, distinct is kind of your unique value. So all these, whatever the arrow that you can see it, right? It's all unique value. We don't see duplicate value. But the blank is a duplicate value. Since it appears more than one time, it takes only the unique value. Only one value it takes. Got it? That is what count distinct is all about. The next one is our count blanks. It's a very good function. I just copy paste this. And what you do is, once you copy paste this, on the right side in the fields pane, the previous measures will be there. Best thing, you can remove it first. Okay. Or else you can click on it here. Okay. So now what I do is I'm going to use count blanks. Let me check if there is any function that is available. Count blank is not available. No problem. We will go and create the new measure. Modeling tab, you click on it and new measure. Column name. For example, we will look at the units sold. All the time, why we need to use sales. It will give you the number of blank values in the units sold. Can someone type me how many blank values are there in the unit sold so that I'll make sure that you're all concentrating here. Count blanks measure 3. Look here, this is the one I created just now. Just drop it, drag and drop it here. 3 blank values are there in the unit sold. 1, 2, 3. Count blanks. So this is the one counting the number of blanks. If you want to see how many blank values are there in a column, you can use the count blanks function. Distinct count will give you the unique values in the column, but it takes into account of the blank values also. Okay, and here I use the same function, but the difference is here I have the same function, but difference is the data column name. Okay, different column name I used it. I used it on the active column, I guess. Let me just check. Not the active column, sales column. Here, for this one, I used it on the customer column. Okay, fine. So far, we have explored all these count functions except the count rows. Now, I'm going to use the count rows function, and I'm going to create a new measure. Modeling tab, click on the new measure. Count rows table name. What is the table name? Sales by customer. This is the one we have been working with it. It simply gives us the total number of records in a table. Here, what I do is I just select this visual. Just drop it here. So how many records are there in total? 9 records. Now you understood the difference between all these count functions. Got it. This is how we can use the count function effectively, all the count functions. Here I already saved this file with this count family demo. Here, this is a new one. The last one is a new page. If you want to refer back, you can go on the previous page also. You can use this new page because today only we created a fresh one. Okay, what we will do is we will circle back sometime. Today is you practice all the DAX functions right from the day one I covered. This Thursday we'll circle back. Okay, this Thursday we'll circle back and we will continue with the important concepts of DAX. That's very, very important. But once you understand the important concept in the upcoming Thursday, rest of the DAX function, understanding the rest of the DAX functions will be pretty simple. But in general, the DAX functions are a little bit complex. But whatever the DAX functions so far we have seen, were a very simple one. The only thing is you need to understand the difference between these functions. Okay. Next week, I'll start with average, average AX, average A, average AX function, and also sum and sum X function. Plus, we will get into the core of the DAX function, evaluation context. I'll explain you the evaluation context. and then I'll explain you the calculated table, calculated column, and the measure in detail. And we will compare and contrast all these three things in the next session. And also we'll take a look at, we'll take a deep dive in the evaluation context. What are the types of evaluation context? We will discuss it, and then we will proceed further. Any questions in today's session? So, all right, since you don't have any questions, I'm going to wrap up the session. Okay, what I will do is